Hey guys, welcome back for another video. Today we're looking at BX46. This is the Infinity Stadium set. This comes with the new red recolor of Cobalt Drake with a very nice 960 and a white Rush, so another reprint of Rush, which is very cool. Also comes with the new Goat Tackle, which comes with 770 and Taper, all really cool recolors. All of the parts in this set look really nice. If you guys still need to pick one of these up, feel free to check out Spin City Imports. Code Nizuma will get you a discount. So we've got some different strategies for the Infinity Stadium. Really interesting stadium. Probably not my favorite for competitive. However, I do like that we're getting something new. I expect that these will probably see periodic play, so it's probably good to know a few things about these. The main issue, in my opinion, with the design of this is that there are no lips keeping you out of these pockets. So the standard stadium, if I just pull this up real quick, has these small lips on the KO zones that sort of protect you a little bit. They've also got these pillars right here that protect you from hopping into the extreme finish zone. And then the center part that keeps you from the extreme zone is also a little bit bigger. The walls here are much shorter to get into the extreme zone. There's nothing to protect you from these KO zones. And if you pocket into the overfinish zones and you're using something like 160, it can pop out of this pocket and end up in the extreme finish zone. So 160, a little riskier. It could go both ways. You could end up getting knocked back out, or you could end up getting knocked into the extreme finish zone. But we'll go ahead and talk about it. So main gimmick, obviously, is this infinity loop. So that's the idea. You're supposed to hit these and just loop around. Really cool visually, but super scary in a game. So I think stalling is probably going to be the best option. If you guys aren't super familiar with stalling, it's not super hard to do. It's all based on angle. At the end of this video, I'll have a link to my control video, which basically goes in depth in how to basically manipulate the Beyblade to go in whichever direction you want in the Beyblade or in the stadium. So super handy video. I think that's worth checking out if you guys haven't seen it. I think the main strategy is going to be to stall a little bit. I think trying to go for super early game aggression, especially if you get bumped out of that loop, is super scary. So stalling is going to be effectively the same as the standard stadium, with one major caveat, and that's obviously that there's not as much flat space, so it's a little more difficult. And you've got these lips here up towards the corners. They're not very tall, but they make it hard to travel straight into that direction. So you either need to use a rounded tip like taper, ball, kick in order to try to get over that lip. Rush is going to have a harder time doing it. Or you need to start the stall over in this area. So the way that we're going to do that is basically just tilt to the right. That's going to make you travel on sort of the side of the bit there into that corner. So it's going to give you a little bit more safety early game. I don't recommend launching as hard as possible in this stadium. It's very likely that you will just self-KO. So we've got Clock Mirage here. You can stall basically just by tilting to the right and sort of aiming towards this area. It'll give you a few seconds to hopefully avoid your opponent. Now, they can cross over into your side of the stadium and loop into your zone, so that's a little scary. If you are stalling up here and you get basically bumped, it's pretty likely that you're going to end up getting KO'd into that pocket since it's right up here in this corner. But if you can predict which side they're going to stall from, you can either pick this pocket or you can try to stall in one of these pockets as well. So you can just back tilt if they're going to try to stay in this zone or cross over into the other zone, basically vice versa. Just basically try to predict which side they're going to go to and shoot for the opposite. Unless you're going for attack, in which case you can try to meet them on that zone. But again, it's mirrored on both sides. So super high impact blades might be a little riskier just because high recoil means you're probably going to get flung across the stadium a little easier. Which is why I think that Rubber Excel actually may see some use in this stadium. It doesn't have a perfect tornado ridge. It does have ridges on the sides. It doesn't have any towards the area that goes towards the pocket. Otherwise, Rubber Excel would be really good in the stadium, but it's not terrible. It is usable. Obviously, the stamina is terrible, but I'd rather lose 1 point than 2 or 3 points. So again, forward tilting will get you up in this corner. Tilting to the left will stall you on this side. I don't recommend aiming for this corner because, especially if you're on the X side, because you're traveling straight in the direction of that pocket, that can be a little risky, but you can try it. Try one more time. Very scary getting early game hits. I actually think this is I actually think this stadium probably is safer to stall with than to try to go for super early game hits, because like the recoil off of both blades could just result in a double KO. I think it also, this stadium is probably going to favor less recoily attack blades in terms of like a safety perspective for self KOs. So those are my two main recommendations, is trying to stall in both sides of the stadium. So again, this is going to require prediction on where your opponent is going to launch. And like I said, when you stall, a lot of times you're going to end up falling back into the opposite side. So it could be a little bit risky. It depends on what you're using, what your opponent's using. If they're using stamina and you're using stamina, it might be a good idea to try to stall up in the corner and then drop down. Whoever takes center first is going to be at higher risk of getting KO'd. And then for attack types, attack versus attack, early game contact is going to be, like I said, pretty risky, just because two high recoil blades moving pretty fast is going to be very dicey in terms of who's going to actually end up pocketed. You could both end up pocketed pretty easily. So you may want to stall with attack types as well, just for a little bit of safety early game. But the main thing here is going to be able to, one of the main factors here is going to be able to, like I said, be able to predict your opponent. If you're not good at predicting, you may, like I said, you may want to check out like some launch guide videos and get an understanding of which angles are going to make the Beyblade travel in which direction. That way you're not only better at doing those launches, but better at predicting where people are going to end up in the stadium. But yeah, in closing, my final points of advice are: get good at stalling, get good at being able to predict how people are launching. If you can't do it, watch some videos, watch the control video. Like I said, I'll have it linked at the end. So you get used to which angles move your Beyblade in which direction. That way, when you're at the stadium, you can tell which area your opponent is likely to end up in. And don't launch as hard as possible. It's a bad idea. Trust me, if you end up getting looped, you'll probably end up self-KOing. You can launch pretty hard if you're stalling, if you're at a pretty steep angle, so you're not catching those rails. But do not flat launch as hard as possible. You'll probably end up self-KOing a lot. And like I said, the one-sided ratchets are a little bit riskier in the stadium, just because you can end up pocking into the extreme finish zone and end up with even more points lost than you would have if it had just been a 2-point. So if you guys have any questions or comments, tips or tricks, feel free to leave them down below. Smash the like, subscribe if you guys haven't already for future Beyblade content, and I will see you guys in the next one.